Welcome. Today we are talking to Zida Borcich, owner of Studio Z in Mendocino in Fort Bragg on the beautiful Mendocino coast. She's a graphic designer and letterpress printer. Zida, welcome to MCTV. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Alan. Great to be here.
So tell me, how did you get involved and started in letterpress printing?
When I first came to Fort Bragg, it was 1972, and I had just been traveling in Europe for a couple of years and just landed here, and a friend named Al Moise had a print shop in town. And for some reason, a woman thought that I was an artist and came to me and asked if I would do a boat launching invitation for her husband's new boat. Being game, I said, sure, and I drew a picture of Paul Bunyan hoisting this big boat out into the bay. And I took it to Al Moise. And Al said, you know, if you set the type for, because I took it to Al to print it.
Okay.
So an invitation to a boat launching, a great big fishing boat. It was, you know, a big deal. Al said, well, you know, if you set the type on this, you won't have to pay me, and you'll get more money for this little job that was like, you know, $20. So he sat me down in front of a typecase. It was Craw Modern, as I remember, and gave me a map of the case and set me to setting the invitation, one letter at a time. And a typecase is arranged, it's called a California case, and it's arranged with letters in little boxes, little compartments. Mm-hmm. So you need a map to see where the A is and where the B is. So I set the type and left it for him to print. And 2 days later, he called me and offered me a job because there were no loose lines. So, you know, I needed a job, and it was great. And it was an immediate, like, something that just went into my soul. Like, I started dreaming about type. I was dreaming about design. And I knew nothing about it. I had always been a reader, but I never thought about where printing came from. I never even thought about it. I didn't even know there were such things as print shops. So to have this amazing brand new thing come into my life was very exciting.
So from the setting of the letters in the blocks to the actual operation of the machinery was something that Al taught you over the course of years?
Yes, I worked for Al. I apprenticed with him for about 10 years before he died. And he was really a master printer. He had a letterpress component in his shop and also an offset component, and he taught me everything. I'm so grateful to him. And he was an icon in this town, really. Everyone knew him in those days. So, yes, I worked for him for a long, long time. And then when he died, I opened my own shop in 1984 over on Franklin Street. And it was really little. It was like 600 square feet. And I had, one Heidelberg and a C&P hand-fed press.
And those are some of the machines that the audience is going to be seeing during this segment.
Yes.
And that they're still in operation today, and you still use them.
Yes.
But I want to ask you, today's modern printing techniques, rely heavily on computers. At what point did you realize that you would need to change or adapt, your letterpressing ways, and how did you feel about that?
I carried the torch for letterpress printing and hand-set lead type way longer than almost any other letterpress printers around because I loved it. It's incredibly labor-intensive. But when I realized that I had to change something was when all the type foundries stopped. They went out of business. One by one, they've just disappeared. And there are still a few. There's one in Switzerland. There's one in San Francisco. But basically, it's an extinct kind of industry, type, like creating type. And as a job, I had a job, what's called a job shop. There are a lot of letterpress printers that are art printers, and they make fantastic books and beautiful things like that. But I am slightly rare because I have a job shop. And that means I make things like business cards and wedding invitations and stuff like that. Well, I would be hand setting a business card and run out of sixes, or run out of Bs, and I couldn't buy those pieces of those letters anymore. So I slowly came to the realization that I had to change the technology in order to stay viable. And what that technology was, thank goodness, was a polymer plate maker, so that I could design things on my computer and turn it into a raised surface that would still make a letterpress impression. And that's mostly how we work today. I still have a lot of handset type, but we don't use it that much.
Also, in this multimedia and computer and high-tech gadgetry age, what makes letterpress printing, to you still relevant?
There's something very powerful about letterpress printing, and I've watched it all my life as a letterpress printer for the last 35 years that I've been doing it. So what's different about letterpress? I mean, maybe people don't really know. So letterpress uses a raised surface and gets inked and pressed into the paper, and it leaves an impression. It looks different because it is different. There's a shadow around every image, every letter. And this third dimension on paper, this relief kind of printing, creates some sort of an effect in people, and they're affected by it. I watch people run their fingers over it or say, why does it look like this? This is so incredible, It's an art form, a craft form, if you will, and the hand of the artist shows in the work. And I think that is the power of a beautiful thing, that people respond to that.
And also, would you share with the audience a little bit more? You touched on some of the kind of projects that you do work on. Could you embellish on that a little bit?
Well, I really have enjoyed, as a graphic designer, I've really enjoyed working with Visit Mendocino and their ad campaign, and getting to work with all these great photographers and putting their images and their, and my ideas onto paper that gets printed in great magazines. It's really, and it's also very fun. Happened into this niche that I really have just been adoring lately, which is that I've been doing a lot of work for photographers nationally and internationally. Mm-hmm. And photography is one of my favorite arts, and so I get to work with these people that are just like unbelievably talented. And I make their business cards, or I make their thank you notes, or their stationery. A business card actually represents you. I tell people that a business card is your ambassador, and it has to work really hard when you're not there.
So the relevance of letterpressing is still totally relevant, yes, if you don't mind me saying it, in today's age.
It's relevant, and it's actually, in a way, it's thriving because so many people love it.
Well, Zida, thank you so much. We're very appreciative that you took your time to share with us some of the fascinating art of letterpress printing, and that you still obviously have a great passion, and it's being utilized and embraced by new generations that are, that are coming after us. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.